Please hold for commentary based on the Book of Ecclesiastes after the news. Today is November 5th, 2017, and these are the stories that matter. Headline: Trump heads to Japan with North Korea on his mind. U.S. President Donald Trump headed to Japan on the first stop of his five-nation tour of Asia on Saturday, looking to present a united front with the Japanese against North Korea as tensions run high over Pyongyang's nuclear and missile tests. Trump, who is on a 12-day trip, is to speak to U.S. and Japanese forces at Yokota Air Base shortly after arriving in Japan on Sunday and look to stress the importance of the alliance to regional security. Ballistic missile tests by North Korea and its sixth and largest nuclear test in defiance of UN Security Council resolutions have exacerbated the most critical international challenge of Trump's presidency. Aerial drills conducted over South Korea by two U.S. strategic bombers have raised tensions in recent days. Joined by his wife Melania on part of the trip, President Trump's tour of Asia is the longest by an American president since George H.W. Bush in 1992. Besides Japan, he will visit South Korea, China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Trump extended the trip by a day on Friday when he agreed to participate in a summit of East Asian nations in Manila. The trip is to be dominated by trade and how to muster more international pressure on North Korea to give up nuclear weapons. President Trump will seek a united front with the leaders of Japan and South Korea against North Korea before visiting Beijing to make a case to Chinese President Xi Jinping that he should do more to rein in Pyongyang. Trade will factor heavily during Trump's trip as he tries to persuade Asian allies to agree to trade policies more favorable to the United States. A centerpiece of the trip will be a visit to the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Da Nang, Vietnam, where he will deliver a speech in support of a free and open Indo-Pacific region, which is seen as offering a bulwark in response to expansionist Chinese policies. Headline: Islamic State says New York truck attacker is Caliphate soldier. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for a truck attack this week that killed 8 people in the deadliest assault on New York City since September 11, 2001. The militant group on Thursday described accused attacker Saifullah Saipov, 29, as, quote, one of the Caliphate soldiers, end quote, in a weekly issue of its Al-Naba newspaper. The Uzbek immigrant was charged in federal court on Wednesday with acting in support of Islamic State by plowing a rented pickup truck down a popular riverside bike trail, crushing pedestrians and cyclists and injuring a dozen people in addition to those killed. According to the criminal complaint against him, Saipov told investigators he was inspired by watching Islamic State propaganda videos on his cell phone, felt good about what he had done, and asked for permission to display the group's flag in his hospital room in New York. Saipov was taken to Bellevue after being shot in the abdomen by a police officer before his arrest. U.S. President Donald Trump, who has called for Saipov to receive the death penalty, said on Twitter on Friday that Islamic State had claimed as their soldier the, quote, degenerate animal who killed and wounded the wonderful people on the west side of Lower Manhattan. Quote, based on that, the military has hit ISIS much harder over the last 2 days. They will pay a big price for every attack on us, Trump tweeted. In the Middle East, the Islamic State's self-proclaimed caliphate looked to be on the verge of defeat on Friday, with Syrian government forces seizing its last major city on one side of the border and Iraqi troops taking its last big town on the other. Headline: Kentucky man arrested in assault on Senator Rand Paul released on bail. A man has been arrested for assaulting U.S. Senator Rand Paul at his Kentucky home on Friday and causing a, quote, minor injury, the state police said. Rene Boucher, 59, of Bowling Green, Kentucky, was arrested and charged with 1 count of 4th-degree assault causing minor injury, the Kentucky State Police said in a statement on Saturday. Paul and Boucher were acquaintances, said a state police spokesman, who declined to say what led to the incident. Paul's office said in a statement the former Republican presidential candidate, quote, was blindsided and the victim of an assault. The assailant was arrested, and it is now a matter for the police, Senator Paul is fine, end quote. His office did not respond to questions about the extent of any injuries the 54-year-old senator may have suffered or the circumstances of the incidents. The state police spokesman said Paul's injuries were minor and did not require transport to a hospital. Headline: Democratic leader vows fair nomination process in 2020 after uproar. The head of the Democratic National Committee on Saturday vowed to ensure all candidates have an equal chance to win the Democratic presidential nomination after a former party chair accused the committee of rigging the process to aid Hillary Clinton in 2016. DNC Chairman Tom Perez said in a statement the 2020 nominating process would be, quote, unquestionably fair and transparent, end quote. Perez made his comments after former DNC Chairwoman Donna Brazile said earlier this week that the nomination process had been, quote, rigged, end quote, in Clinton's favor after she signed a fundraising agreement with the DNC in 2015. Clinton, a former U.S. Senator and First Lady, beat Senator Bernie Sanders for the nomination but lost the election to Republican Donald Trump in November 2016. Perez said he is, quote, more committed than ever before to restoring voters' faith in our democratic process because even the perception of impartiality or an unfair advantage undermines our ability to win. That is unacceptable, end quote. Sanders' campaign manager, Jeff Weaver, told CNN this week he thought the debate schedule was, quote, rigged. Perez said the party will, quote, decide the debate schedule in advance instead of negotiating it after all candidates have entered the race. And, quote, any and all joint fundraising agreements will be transparent. Brazile, who replaced former DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz last year, also wrote she contemplated proposing to replace Clinton as the party's 2016 presidential nominee. The Washington Post reported on Saturday. The Post said she considered replacing Clinton with then Vice President Joe Biden after Clinton fainted in September of 2016. In the soon-to-be-published book, Brazile recounts deliberations as interim DNC chair whether to initiate the process of removing Clinton and running mate Tim Kaine, a Virginia senator, the Post reported, saying she ultimately did not seek to remove them. Headline: Billionaire prince among dozens arrested in Saudi sweep. Saudi Arabia has arrested dozens of princes, senior military officials, businessmen, and top officials, including a well-known royal billionaire with extensive holdings in Western companies, as part of a sweeping anti-corruption probe that further cements control in the hands of its young crown prince. A high-level employee at Prince Alauid bin Talal's Kingdom Holding Company told the Associated Press that the royal, who is one of the world's richest men, was among those detained overnight Saturday. The company's stock was down nearly 9% in trading Sunday on the Saudi Stock Exchange. The surprise arrests, which also reportedly include two of the late King Abdullah's sons, were hailed by pro-government media outlets as the greatest sign yet that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is keeping his promise to reform the country long been plagued by allegations of corruption at the highest levels of government. Analysts have suggested the arrest of once untouchable members of the royal family is the latest sign that the 32-year-old crown prince is moving to quash potential rivals or critics. The prince's swift rise to power has unnerved more experienced elder members of the ruling Al Saud family, which has long ruled by consensus, though ultimate decision-making remains with the monarch. The king named his son, the crown prince, as head of the anti-corruption committee established late Saturday, just hours before its arrest of top officials. A Saudi government official with close ties to security says 11 princes and 38 others are being held in five-star hotels across the country's capital of Riyadh. The scale of the arrests is unprecedented in Saudi Arabia, where senior royals and their business associates were seen as operating above the law. Saudi nationals have long complained of rampant corruption in government and of public funds being squandered or misused by people in power. The finance ministry said the anti-corruption probe, quote, opens a new era of transparency and accountability, end quote, enhances confidence in the rule of law, and improves the kingdom's investment climate. It is not clear what Prince Alawid or others are being investigated for. Prince Alawid's many investments include Twitter, Apple, Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, Citicorp, and the Four Seasons, Fairmont, and Movenpick hotel chains. He is also an investor in ride-sharing services Lyft and Careem. The government said the Anti-Corruption Committee has the right to issue arrest warrants, impose travel restrictions, and freeze bank accounts. It can also trace funds, prevent the transfer of funds or the liquidation of assets, and take other precautionary measures until cases are referred to the judiciary. Folks, those are the stories that matter this day, November 5th, 2017. Hold for commentary based on the Book of Ecclesiastes. Folks, on Tuesday of this week, a 29-year-old man, an immigrant from Uzbekistan, walked into a Home Depot in New Jersey and rented a truck. And this happens, thousands of times a day, I'm sure, at Home Depots and Lowe's outlets across the country. And I'm sure the person who rented the truck to this man thought, okay, well, he's going to haul some goods, some building materials, whatever it is, and he'll bring the truck back. Instead, this man drove across the bridge into New York City, and he used the truck to mow down 20 people who were walking or riding along the bike path in Manhattan, only a few blocks away from the World Trade Center. Now, 8 of the people there were 8 people killed and a dozen injured. Of the 8 people killed, 2 were American citizens. One was a tourist from Belgium, and the other 5 were tourists from Argentina. Now let's just think about the synchronicity here, the incredible synchronicity of these events coming together. Imagine a young mother of two, in Belgium, planning a trip to the United States to see the sights, to see New York City. Probably one of the greatest cities in the world, the financial center. So much happens in New York City. And this woman wants to tour it with her friends and family. She gets on a plane. She plans the trip. She gets on a plane. She arrives in New York City. And I'm not sure on what day of her trip or her stay this happened. But, at one point they decide to, rent a bike or walk along this path. And at the exact wrong time that this man has planned to kill people. Likewise, 5 friends from Argentina, all the way in Argentina. I mean, just imagine this. In Argentina, 5 people. There were probably more of the group, but the 5 who were killed decided to, and I think it was a high school reunion or some kind of or a trip with high school friends. And they decided to come to New York City. And on that day, they decide to be on that path when that truck, at that time of day, is being driven into the crowd. And, there's so many things, you want to discuss about this, but what first came to mind to me was Ecclesiastes 9:12. And in that verse we read, "For man also does not know his time, like fish taken in a cruel net, like birds caught in a snare, so the sons of men are snared in an evil time, when it falls suddenly upon them." And that's Ecclesiastes 9:12. So what should that verse, Ecclesiastes 9:12, mean to us? How should we respond? It's common to think that this is a very similar verse to those in Mark and Matthew, when Jesus is speaking of the end of times, the end of days, the old earth passing away, and so forth. But this really is much different. Here Solomon, or Koheleth, is speaking of our own end of days. We each have our own end of time on this planet. Now, if you go throughout Ecclesiastes, you're going to find 5 places where the author, again, Solomon or Koheleth, whoever you believe wrote the book, you'll see it repeated 5 different times. Eat, drink, and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Eat, drink, and be merry. Eat, drink, and enjoy the days with the wife of your youth. This is a constant reminder. 5 times in the book it says to enjoy life, that we do not know the end. And every day that we're alive is a gift of God. You know, the fact that we wake up. Now, what we do with that life, that's up to us. What we choose to see, what we choose to read, what we choose to hear, what we choose to say, how we choose to interact, that's on us. And we've got one shot at this life. Now, are you going to spend it in constant friction, in constant complaining, in constant whatever, or are you going to enjoy life? Are you going to see creation for how beautiful it is? Are you going to appreciate every single second with your family, with your wife, with your children, with your grandchildren, with your mother and father and sister and brothers? Is that something you're going to do? Or will you spend your days arguing about Donald Trump? Arguing about this and about that? Complaining? Just think of the synchronicity of these people's lives. They're on this trip. The 6 that were killed that were not American, and just here on tourism. They go up that day. They just want to enjoy life, and I just do hope that when their lives ended so suddenly and so unfairly, that they could have seen in the final seconds that they were enjoying life. Or at the very minimum, they reached the end of their days having squeezed as much out of life as they possibly could. Or did they spend it thinking about money? Did they spend that time worrying about this and worrying about that and missing every single second of the life that God had given you? It is a gift. Every single day is another opportunity to enjoy beautiful music, to enjoy creation, to enjoy your family. I mean, I don't know how to say it any clearer. Ecclesiastes 9:12 really just, it should be just a cold, hard reminder that just like these 8 people who were killed on Tuesday, they had no idea. They woke up that morning. Some were going to work. The 2 Americans, I believe, were just on their way to work, or at work or at lunch, whatever. I sorry, I don't remember the time of the day that this occurred, but they were just operating their normal lives. They got up, they brushed their teeth, they showered, they shaved, they went to work, or they had a day off and they were just enjoying themselves. But they had no idea when they woke up that day that was their last day. And neither do we. Not a single one of us know when that last day is. I could die when I shut off this broadcast. And if I do, what have I left behind? Did I enjoy every day God gave me? Because I can tell you, until I was saved 6 years ago, I did not. 6 years ago, before 2011, I spent my days worrying about money, worrying about job, worrying about this, worrying about that. It was a constant state of, am I making enough? Am I getting enough? Do I have enough? I want to buy this. I want to get that. And it's such a waste of time. It is such a waste of days. There are so many things you learn too late in life. You know, I always casually joke that everything you need to know when you're 18, you don't get to learn until you're 40. I mean, life experience is just the best teacher, and it's unfortunate. And we as parents, we are just like, learn this from us to our children and grandchildren. Please learn this from us. Learn from our mistakes. And each generation has done that. And each generation's admonitions have, for the most part, fallen on deaf ears. I mean, life goes on. You got to do what you got to do. You got to survive. I get that. But are you spending your days in constant worry, in constant complaining? I mean, you woke up today, and there are, I don't know how many people die a day, hundreds of thousands, millions, I don't know. But those people did not get another day. And you have it. And what are you going to do with it? Now, you can't change the world in a day. I'm not saying that. But can you fill your eyes with as much beauty as you can? Can you fill your ears with beautiful music or a beautiful play? Can you eat good food? Can you savor every bite of whatever meal you're having? Or are we fast food for the rest of our lives? Are we just constantly just get this, get that, immediate gratification, and whatever we can get our hands on is fine? Are you living intentionally? I guess it's part of what I'm saying here. You have the choice. We all have the choice every single day to either complain, chase after things that just don't matter, or we can appreciate what we have and what we've been given. I can tell you, my life improved when I changed my prayers. Right now, 90% of my prayers, if not more, are prayers of thanksgiving. Just appreciate everything you have. If you do that, and you change from 90% supplications and please give me this and please give me that and please do this and do this for me and do that for me. If you just change your prayer life to 90% just thanking God for another day, for the sun being in the right place, for your family, for your friends. If you have a lousy job, but you have a job. If we can't appreciate every day that we're given, then when that day comes, the end of days, what will you say? What will you, especially if you know it's coming, if you've been, diagnosed with something terminal, or you're in a hospital and you know you're going to die? I mean, what are you going to look back on? I think we should aim to arrive at that day just completely filled with this. I mean, I want to say to God, I opened my eyes to, and I tried to fill my eyes with as much of the beauty that you gave us. And I attended concerts with beautiful music. I spent my days listening to beautiful music and beautiful conversation. And I tasted the good food that you provided. I didn't waste my time on this and that. I savored every bite because I knew every bite could be my last. Are we living intentionally? So that's what immediately came to mind. I know it's hard to, marry that with a terrorist attack, but just think of those 8 people and the synchronicity that was involved in bringing those to the exact wrong place at the exact wrong time. That this man drove this truck. We don't know, folks. We are caught in a snare. We are caught like fish in a cruel net. And today could be your last. So think about that. If today was your last day, and you look back on your life, Did you enjoy? Did you intentionally enjoy? Did you set out to enjoy your life? We got one shot at this, folks. One shot. There's a limited number of days. And if we can't live each day knowing that, if we just set our minds to saying, this could be my last day, I want to get as much out. Now, there is some practicality to that. I get that. You got to go to work. You got to, sit in a job you may not like. But that's the minor stuff. And we have built for ourselves all of these chains, debt and bills and all this stuff that we had to have. We built that for ourselves. We built our own prisons and our own chains with all that stuff. So I don't think there's anything more important than setting out each day and intentionally living and telling ourselves and telling God, I am going to get as much out of these precious hours and days that you have given me to absorb as much of the beauty that you have provided. This is also why I say at the end of my broadcast or at the end of an email or any kind of communication, I never say have a great day. Or I try not to anyway. Folks, we need to get out there and make it a great day. You can't be too passive about this. You need to make it a great day. And don't get dragged down by all of the minutia of life. Yeah, I know it's necessary. I know we got to do what we have to do to survive and plan, all that kind of stuff. But please don't get caught up in that. So, folks, that's my commentary for today. I thank you so much for being with me. I do appreciate you taking the time. So, as I always say, get out there and make it a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.